Like they say these days, ladies and gentlemen, very mindful, very cutesy, and very demure. Please put your hands together for the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. We now cede the microphones to our friends from the media. And please, the numbers, as we all acknowledge, is quite huge. And so we have the microphones in the various lanes. You lift your hands, then we'll call you, then you speak. But before anything, I think it's only fair that we let the Vice President of the GJA speak first, and then the floodgates will be open. Okay, Madam President is there. GJA, please, let's hear from Vice President of the GJA, then we can. Hello. And please, let's be very brief with the questions. Please go ahead, Madam.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. This engagement has been a long-standing one. It is something that we've been yearning for a very long time. And thank God that you've paved the way for us today to have this engagement. Thank you so much on behalf of the Ghana Journalists Association. I have two simple questions to ask you, Your Excellency. What is your commitment to media freedom? And how would you urge your supporters to refrain from attacking journalists, especially during electioneering, as we are in some few months to go? And also, how will you deal with your supporters who act in such a manner? The second question, Your Excellency, the media industry is currently facing serious financial distress. Some media houses are folding up, and there are hints of imminent sale of state-owned media. What are your thoughts on selling the state-owned media, and how would you help the media industry to overcome the financial distress if you are elected as president? Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you. So only the GJA gets to ask two questions, please. Gordon. We'll take about 6 questions, then His Excellency would respond, then we'll come to you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'll keep my question short as myself. Your Excellency, former President Mahama says you were supposed to be an economic messiah, but you seem to have failed in the management of the economy. Do you have any response?
Okay. In Sempera, I see at least we get Eastern region. So we'll keep moving.
Thank you, His Excellency. My name is Nsempera Emmanuel Mate, and I work with Afima FM in Koforidia, the Eastern Regional Capital. My question is very simple and short. Is there anything you have disagreed with in this government as a Vice President? Thank you.
Eugene from Ashanti region, Ishra FM.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. My name is Eugene Osetutu. I work at Love FM in Kumasi, subsidiary of the Multimedia Group. Listening to you last Sunday and also reading your manifesto, and you're giving us an abridged version. When you go to the page 23 and 24, you are tackling the rising cost of living basically on 4 legs. Food, then you talk about transportation, you talk about housing, and also electricity. Now on transportation, your solution is bringing in, one of your solutions is bringing in electric vehicles for public transport. And last Sunday, you did indicate that you're expecting about 100 of them before December. I have 3 questions on that. We know EV vehicles are mostly charged. They have public charging systems that we use to, power these buses to ply our roads. When we check the Energy Commission website as of this evening, we have only 5 public charging ports in the country, 5. And 2 of them are actually for Porsche cars specifically. then one at the Total Energy Station at the Liberation Road. So between now and December, where are we building the charging port? Is the government building it, or the source of fund? Is it the private sector, or is it PPP? So that's my question one.
Thank you. You have.
Then question two.
You have.
No, under it, and I'm not done.
No, is it directly related to EV?
Yes, it's the EV. Yes,
let's be fair to the others and make it short.
Okay, so still on the EV, we know that most of these charging ports for green mobility innovations, they must be powered with green energy. So are we already adding on to our energy mix, which is the brown, making it counterproductive, or we build dedicated solar panels for these charging ports? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll go to this side before we come back. So Wilberforce, don't worry, we'll keep moving to every row.
Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Vice President, so throughout your campaign, I have noticed that you've been talking about job creation and support for businesses. I've also taken the pain to read all the 260-page manifesto that you launched a week ago. And I see that the golden thread in that manifesto is also the creation of jobs. But the young people in Ghana are asking, really, where would they find themselves in that manifesto? How are you going to create jobs for the young people of this country? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilberforce. I think at this point, His Excellency will take the questions and then we'll come back. We don't have the chance. Your Excellency, 6 questions.
Thank you very, very much. I think those are pretty tough questions. The first question by the Vice President of the GJA was on commitment to media freedom. And I think that commitment is very absolute. I think the press and people have fought and have lost their lives even to get press freedom or media freedom in this country. A lot of the times we take it for granted, but I think that media freedom and is so pivotal to the whole democratic exercise that we are embarked on. If you don't have media freedom, you'll have a difficulty. I mean, that's the lack of media freedom is a characteristic of societies which are more dictatorial. And I think one of the things about Ghana that everybody who comes here really appreciates is the freedom of the media. We talk a lot on radio, TV all day. And so I'm very committed to this because I'm inherently someone who is very committed to democracy. And I don't think that anyone should attack a member of the press for doing their job. And so we will totally be against that and ask all our supporters to refrain absolutely from doing that, because that undermines the very democracy that we are doing, So I think that one is clear. The issue of stealing state-owned media, I am not aware that anything of that nature has come to cabinet, but should it come, there has to be a justification for it. We will await any such thing that will come. I'm not aware that there's a proposal to sell the state-owned media. But if it comes, it has to be justified, and of course, a big decision like that will have to be undertaken with a lot of consultation of stakeholders. The third question, third question is about what the former president supposed to have said about me being an economic messiah, supposedly, who has failed. Sometimes I get a little surprised and amazed, the former president, when he talks about economic mismanagement, because he should know his own record. I mean, we don't all have short memories. We really don't all have short memories. His record in economic management, what he left us with in 2016, was an abysmal record. It's just an abysmal record. We had endured doomsday for 4 years with all the destruction of industry and livelihoods that happened. People died because of doomsday in hospitals. The National Health Service was virtually collapsed. Remember, we are basically back to a cash and carry system. The National Ambulance Service was virtually dead. We had maybe about 37 ambulances for the whole country. Unemployment as a result was very high. Agriculture, GDP growth had declined to 3.4%. 3.4%. Agricultural growth had declined to 2.9%. And of course, industry growth had collapsed because of doomsday. Unemployment was high. There was a freeze on public recruitment as a result. And the banking sector was on the verge of collapse. We had, as a result, the cancellation of teacher training allowances, the cancellation of nursing training allowances. You had a 3-month pay policy for teachers, would work for 3 years and be paid. And many children could not attend senior high school because of difficulties of paying fees and so on. You had many, many challenges that he left us with. So when you juxtapose that record with what we have been able to do in these last 8 years almost, it's really night and day. We have created at least 2.1 million jobs. The latest number I saw was 2.3 million. But let's say at least 2.1 million jobs in the last 7 years. And this is hard data I'm talking about. 2.1 million jobs. We've kept the public sector workers employed and fully paid through the COVID pandemic. We didn't lay anybody off. And if you look at it, we've built more roads, 3 times more the length of roads than what he did in office. We've built more railway than any other government in the Fourth Republic. Expanded rural telephony. There were 78 sites for rural telephony when we came in. Today there are 1,008 sites for rural telephony. We built more libraries, public libraries, than any other government. I mean, his time, he built only 8 years, 3 public libraries, 8 years. And we've built 54 public libraries in 8 years. We've constructed about 12 major fish landing sites across the country. Axim, Dix Cove, Moree, Mumford, Winneba, Senyabreko, Gomoa, Fete, Teshi, Osu, Ekumfi, and Mfasima. Constructed 2 fishing harbors in Elmina and Jamestown. Constructed more sanitation facilities, 817, than any other government in the Fourth Republic. This has increased the proportion of the population with access to toilet facilities from 33% in 2016 to 80%. And 5,400 communities have been declared open defecation free. We've built more sports facilities in Ghana than any other government in the Fourth Republic. whether you're talking about Boteman or the University of Ghana and so on. When we came into office, there were only 3 astroturfs in the whole of Ghana. The whole of Ghana, 3. Today you have over 150. We've abolished the 3-month pay policy, constructed 120 courts we're constructing, 80 have been completed with bungalows, and we've kept the lights on broadly in the last 8 years. We've restored teacher and nursing training allowances. We've increased the beneficiaries of scholarships by 70%. And the national health insurance is now being extended to cover sickle cell patients with hydroxyurea, very expensive drug, but I led the negotiations for that to happen. We have extended the national health insurance to cover childhood cancer, extended the national health insurance to cover kidney dialysis for over 60s and under 18s. We saved the deposits of 4.6 million bank depositors who really were going to lose their deposits if those banks were not saved. I don't understand whether the former president has taken his time to actually understand what happened in the banking sector. Some atrocious things happened. And this is why these banks had to be saved. They were not collapsed, they were merged into other banks. And no banking depositor lost 1 cedi. Everybody maintained. But you had very bad things happening. You know, some of the banks broke all the rules and extended loans way above the single obligor limits. They were given, in some cases, 1 billion cedis by the Bank of Ghana to help them get out of the mess, and they only got deeper into the mess. Another bank was giving capital to save the situation, was giving money from the Bank of Ghana's lender of last resort facility, and they used that money to go and set up Capital Bank instead of rescuing the problem that they had. They took the money from the central bank and went to set up another bank, which was also collapsing. Some took money and went and invested in private property. So it was against this background when the governor came to report, and this was one of my nightmares as in the last 8 years. I couldn't sleep that night, that the banking system, most people didn't understand how close we were to a collapse of the entire banking system, but we were this close because all it would have taken was for a few depositors to go to UT Bank or UMT and they'll tell you there's no money. What would happen? There would have been a complete run on the banking system in Ghana. We would have collapsed the banking system. When the governor came to report that we were on the verge of collapse, decisions had to be taken to save the banking system and to save depositors. And this is how come we had to merge many of these banks into other banks. And we saved 4.6 million depositors. I'll ask the former president, if he hasn't read, to go and read the receiver's report, or to go and read the Bank of Ghana report and acquaint himself before making any further comments on matters he clearly does not understand. He needs to get an understanding before you make comments. And you cannot hand over a bank's license to them. This is subject to legal procedure. You have to go to court. You don't have the power in our constitution to do that. And I'm surprised sometimes because he has been president before and he should know these things. He should know these things. He should know these things. Ladies and gentlemen, we have tripled the capitation grant per child since we came into office, from 5 cedis to 15 cedis. And what is interesting also is that we've had the lowest increase in electricity tariffs in recent history. Between his time, 2009, and 2016, when they were in office, the average annual increase in electricity tariffs was 50% a year. That's the average. Some of the years were 80%. Between 2009 and 2016, 50% average a year. In the last 8 years, the average increase in electricity prices has been 11.1%. This is the lowest average increase of any government since 1992. Any government since 1992. When we came in our first term, we abolished and reduced 21 separate taxes. And we reduced import duties by 50% between 2019 and 2021. 50% reduction in import duties. And that, of course, we had to go back on that when we got into the crisis. We introduced the National Rental Assistance Scheme to help to deal with this problem of rent advance. And it is one of the best schemes that we have seen. It has worked very well, and we are going to expand it for the rest of the country. We're going to put in serious money, because with that, you don't need to pay 2 years rent advance. You will pay the landlord, and you just pay monthly, and it's working, and of course, working with the private sector. Infant mortality under our government has come down from 37.9 in 2016 to 31.7. And in terms of LEAP, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, we have increased payments almost tenfold, from 49 million that we used to pay every year to 423 million LEAP payments. Now, National Health Insurance, NHIS expenditure has also gone up from 1.1 billion to 6.8 billion. During COVID, we had free water for everybody for a year, and free electricity for lifeline consumers, and all of that. We brought in over 4 million beneficiaries now under school feeding, up from 1.6 million. We've absorbed the examination fees for all students of BCA and WACC. People were sacked from examination centers for not paying examination fees before we came into. We've doubled the number of student loan recipients from 30,000 to 58,000, almost double. We've also, of course, introduced mobile money interoperability to make almost every adult Ghanaian have a bank account through the Momo's account interoperability with the bank account. In fact, the whole of Africa, Ghana is the only country with 100% access to financial inclusion. 100%. The whole of Africa. Ghana is the only country with 100% access to financial inclusion. What is interesting is that when I first made a statement and I said Ghana was the first country in Africa to have mobile money interoperability between banks and Momo accounts, some people decided to fact check me. And they said that I was wrong. Just that they didn't understand the terrain, the fact checkers. So I took my time to explain to the fact checkers exactly what was happening in the field. Unfortunately, once they understood it, they didn't come back to withdraw. They just kept quiet. You know, today, when chalk was a problem, remember, chalk in our schools under the former president, when it was a problem. Today, we have acquired tablets to give to the students. Every senior high school student is getting a tablet that we are having. So I'm just putting some of these points together. You know, Agenda 111, so far we've built 47 hospitals, 428 CHIPS compounds, 230 health centers. I mean, that is massive. That's excluding Agenda 111. We've brought in drone delivery, and Ghana is now the whole world's the largest medical drone delivery service in the whole world. We're leading the world. The ambulance service, which was collapsing, we've brought in one constituency, one ambulance, and we are making a lot of progress in that direction. So I think that, I mean, what is clear, I don't have to go through every sector. The data, for me, I speak only with data. The data is very, very clear that we have our government. We have outperformed the government of former President Mahama in the management of the economy in virtually every sector. Virtually every sector. You tell me whether it's GDP growth, whether it's per capita income, whether it is industry growth. I mean, virtually every sector we have outperformed him. So he either does not read or he does not understand the data. He needs to do one of the two. Take his time to read the data and understand what it is before he comes out to speak, because he will speak out of ignorance. Because if you understand the data, and I believe that as a former president, he does understand the data. He must understand the data. And I believe that is why he doesn't want to debate me. I believe so. That is why he doesn't want to debate me. He's running away from that. So if, according to him, we have mismanaged the economy in the midst of a global crisis, if our mismanaged economy is outperforming you in virtually every sector, this economy that you are saying has been mismanaged. We are performing you in GDP growth, in per capita income, in gross international reserves, in every sector, roads, hospitals, schools, everything. Free SHS, all of that. If this is the mismanaged economy that is outperforming you in your economy that had no global crisis, no crisis at all, but you couldn't afford chalk. You couldn't afford chalk, but there was no crisis. So if our mismanaged economy is performing better than your better managed economy, then in that case, you must not have been very good. Let me put it mildly. I was going to say incompetent. Because our bad economy it's much better than your good economy. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So I think that the matter, I hope that this matter can be settled. There's no way he can say that his economy that he managed as president, by the way, I'm not yet president, in another 3 months, inshallah. Yeah, I mean, let us settle this matter. And you are members of the press. You read the data. You follow the data. You know the data. You know that we have done better than him. So why does he want to come back? I mean, it's like you go for an exam with someone in school. You score 70%, they score 30%. And they want to convince people that they are better than you. It doesn't make sense in that sense. So I seriously believe that statement, that we have failed. Of course, we've had challenges. Nobody can say we haven't had challenges. We have had challenges, serious challenges, challenges that have kept me up at night. In 2022, that was the horrible year for us, 2022. Petrol prices went up to 23 cedis per liter. We were losing reserves so badly, and you saw food prices going up and all of that. That was a real challenge that we had to deal with. And this is how we came up with the whole gold for oil, gold purchase program, and that has really helped us. Today, Ghana today, notwithstanding all the challenges, we are the 10th lowest priced in terms of petroleum in Africa, the whole of Africa. Ghana is number 10 in those of lowest prices of petroleum products. We are number 10, 10th lowest. The lowest is Libya. Then you move through Egypt and Sudan and all of those to come to number 10, which is Ghana. Ghana, we are priced around 13, 14 cedis per liter right now. Cote d'Ivoire is priced 23 cedis per liter, as Hassan was just telling me earlier on when I asked. 10th lowest. We still want to bring it lower. But in 2022, at the time I announced the Gold for Oil program, when I said we had to attack this thing with gold for oil, the prices were 23 cedis per liter at that time. So we've had challenges. It's not, everything is not where we want it to be, but I believe that we can work better. But I don't think the former president can lecture us on economic management. He just cannot. His record would not allow him to lecture us on economic management. Is there anything you have disagreed with in this government? The issue when you sit in cabinet, you have collective responsibility. That is fundamental to governance. When we sit in cabinet, we argue on many, many issues, and everybody brings their mind. And sometimes your view prevails, sometimes it doesn't prevail. But once we take a decision, it is a collective decision. And so I cannot come out and say that the decision that we collectively took, I disagree with. No, I'm bound by it. That is the nature of cabinet responsibility. Fifth question had to do with the rising cost of living, and I'm very happy you are raising these issues on the EV, electric vehicles. You're right. One of the ways that we want to reduce the cost of living is through bringing in public transportation, the electric buses. And, so that is what is going on. We are bringing in about 100 to start with to essentially do the pilot for it. And the issue that you raise is a very, very fundamental one, which is the charging stations for these electric buses. And I must tell you that Metro Mass is working very, very hard as we speak to put in the charging stations. So we will have the charging stations in place by the time the buses get here. So that is clearly a very, very important one. And the issue of green energy, whether you're going to try to bring in solar to charge these batteries, I think it is definitely going to be important. Because in general, if you read that particular chapter, I want Ghana to move towards solar power. And this is where I think we should be going. And this is why I want us to bring in 2,000 megawatts of solar power in the next 4 years to really bring down the cost of power. And we've seen some work already being done by Ghpage in terms of the solar area, but we're going to really expand it. So in terms of all these buses, all these government buildings, all the schools and so on, I want to move them all towards green energy, solar power, and I think that is where we should be going. I think that the other question was on job creation for the young people. I think that is at the heart of the manifesto, that you want to essentially move to create the environment and put in place the policies that will help business and that will help jobs, right? So that's why we're talking about bold solutions for business and jobs. I think that is so critical. And I think that there are many areas that we are touching on for the young people to get the jobs. I think that, I mean, the two are very linked, business and jobs. If you let businesses grow, then the jobs will also be created. And so we are looking at helping businesses grow by putting together our implementing our legally backed Ghana First policy, so that the procurement by the public will be focused on things that are produced in Ghana first before they look outside. So that is a very important part of the policy mix that we are coming with. That will make people hire more, and we will get more jobs in that sense. We also have a major tax program of tax reform to make the business environment very, very good and easy to comply with. So we are bringing in a flat tax system as exists in Estonia. We are also bringing in a tax amnesty for business so that we can all start on a clean slate and move forward. We believe that, you know, training the youth will be very, very important. So the investment that we are making in TVET will continue. The focus, we're setting up an open university with a focus on ICT, TVET, and also the whole STEM area as well. So we want to do that, but we also are trying to get our youth trained in digital skills. I have a program for 1 million youth to be trained in digital skills, which is a broad area of training for the youth, because the jobs these days are increasingly more in that space. And I think that we can have a situation where a lot of our youth are here and they are working, whether in America or the US or Canada, right from Ghana here and so on. So these are some of the areas that we think we're going to get going, the infrastructure area and so on, that will expand the economy so that we can create more jobs for our people. And of course, setting up the SME bank, setting up, you know, the credit scoring system to allow people to get credit and move Ghana towards that system. We may have some time to talk more about some of these, but these are some of the areas we want to get the youth totally involved and empowered to get jobs. Thank you very much. I'll take the next set.
Thank you, Your Excellency. But at this point, Your Excellency, we are going to time you, because if we follow the former president who talks, we are going to time you just as we are going to time Bella Mundi at this point. Bella, please ask your question.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I was listening to you respond to some of the questions earlier, and one of my questions was touched on, so I guess I'll move on to the next one. But just to piggyback off job creation, one of the major aspects of job creation under the MPP is the NACO program. And quite recently, you would recall, sir, that they were threatening to go on a demonstration because they were owed 9 months arrears. Now, even Heal Ghana, and this is something I followed keenly, so I've had conversations with them. Heal Ghana, even before the 9 months, were owed 7 months. And so if you combine the two, they're complaining that they haven't been paid 16 months arrears, and that's a major problem. What do you intend to do about it? And if I can quickly, this was just a piggyback.
No,
so
no, but I have one question.
If I could just
so that Fianco can come. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
If there's the opportunity. Thank you, Fianco.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. I want to take my question from your manifesto for this year's election, and I'm looking at provide better health care for all. Now, you did mention that you were going to offer incentives for healthcare workers to buy 1 vehicle each with engine capacity up to 1.8 liter. Now, for clarity purpose, is it that these vehicles, they would buy them outside and they will be duty free? If that is it, we know we have about 5 automobile companies in this country. Your government brought them. How would this policy boost their production and also enhance the kind of people they would want to work with? Because if they are going to import these cars, we are not really helping them. Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm grateful.
Held it.
Let me remove my cap. Before I proceed to ask my questions, I would like to emphatically state that these questions were not given to me by anyone here. They are from my head, so I'm going to ask. Now, Mr. Vice President, my name is Kojo Sheldon. I represent Kojo Sheldon Studios. The first one is about 322 pharmaceutical doctors on social media right now are planning on suing the health ministry about unpaid, allowances. Now, for someone that has highlighted in your manifesto that when voted into power, you are going to, improve or help improve the condition of services when it comes to conditions of service when it comes to our health people. For right now that you are the vice president, what can you do to help these pharmaceutical, doctors who are, contemplating on suing the Ministry of, Health? My second question borders.
No, Koyo. Don't do that to me.
Mr. The question is.
One question.
Oh, boss.
One question.
So my question, the second question is about perception.
Don't do that.
Boss.
Don't do that.
Oh, bro.
Don't do that.
I
didn't allow Bella.
Perception is very, very important.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Nane Akese. I'll come back to you. Nane Akese. Nane Akese. Peace FM.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Nana Akese. I work with Peace FM. You have promised abolishing bed tax, e-levy, flat import duty, one-time tax amnesty, among others. If you really believe that that is what Ghana needs, why should we wait till you become the president and not implement it now?
Need to go to this. I see Samson Ladi.
Good evening, Your Excellency. So, my question is coming from a group of students on scholarship abroad. They are concerned that the Scholarship Secretariat is not doing what it has to do for them. At page 27 of your manifesto, you speak about harmonizing public scholarships. And there's a purpose for it. You say the purpose is to give full visibility. Beyond the visibility, what will you do about this now and not later? The there are some of them for 20 months, they have not received their stipends. In a number of universities in the UK, in Warwick, Coventry, Nottingham, they are under threat of losing their studentship. In Birmingham, 11 of them have already been withdrawn and they are facing deportation. Will you inquire, particularly knowing about the Fourth Estate's investigations dubbed Scholarship Bonanza, about what appears to be a racketeering in that place? And will you forbid and prohibit politically exposed persons wealthy enough, known in society, from accessing these scholarships? Thank you.
I think the question is very well. After, let me go to the regions. We've done plenty. Accra, Western North. Please give the microphone to the Western North guy. We've done Eastern, we do Western North, we'll do the other regions as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Esposito Inokedusei. I work with the Beat FM. Somewhere in last year, the former President Mahama on his campaign tour in Western North region claimed Cocoa Board is on the verge of collapse. Do you believe Cocoa Board has collapsed? And what is your plans for Cocoa Board? I don't want to go deep. Thank you.
Thank you. Sami Yafe.
Excellency, good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Sami Yafe. I work with CTFM and Channel 1 TV. So a few meters away from us is the site for the construction of the National Cathedral. We know huge sums of money have been sunk into the project. What will you do about it if or when you become president of this country? Thank you very much.
Excellency, please take these questions and then.
Thank you very much. Let me take them in the order in which they were asked. I think that the first question had to do with NAPCO, the Nation Builders Corps, and the arrears that have been owed to NAPCO. I think that the program had about 100,000 people on it, and I think initially it was supposed to be a 3-year program, and then would be renewed and so on. But I think that so far, out of the 100,000 that were taken, 34,000 have exited into permanent jobs under NAPCO, and the others are still. But I think that the issue that Bella raises is the arrears and how we are going to deal with it. I've raised this issue because this is not really there's some information that has come to me already about the arrears in the NAPCO program, and I've raised this issue with the Minister for Finance and trying to persuade them to make these arrears payments. So we will follow that up on behalf of the NAPCO employees. The second issue had to do with providing better health care in the manifesto and the issue of cars and how these will affect local companies. I think that what is very clear when you look at the manifesto is that we did not really say it was only for imported. The incentives would only be for imported vehicles, because you just said you will provide incentives. Clearly, under President Kufuor, there were incentives for healthcare workers and also for teachers to bring in vehicles, and they will waive the import duty, and that basically worked but was abused. we think that with digitalization and the unique identity of people, we can better monitor this situation. But the issue is that we need to be able to see how these teachers and these nurses could also acquire with the necessary incentives from the local manufacturing companies. I mean, as you know, the numbers of teachers and nurses are very, very large relative to the production capacity of some of the firms here. But we are leaving that open to discuss with them and with the manufacturing companies here to see how we can incentivize. Our preference clearly is to buy local. And so we will work with them to see how best, if they can meet the terms in terms of production on time and all of that. I think we will try to incentivize them, but we will leave it open for discussion, and that's what we've done. The other issue was that we wanted to do these tax reforms, import duty, flat tax, tax amnesty, and so on. But why don't I do it now? And why do I want to? I must have a manifesto. Otherwise, if I do everything now, if I could, what would I do when I come into office? I mean, how can you do everything now? Even President Mahama, former president, who was president, I'm only vice president, but he was president. Why didn't he do everything then? I mean, why is he coming back? He had full authority. I don't have full authority. The budget that has gone to Parliament, which has been passed, is not my budget. Is it my budget? It's not my budget. The budget goes in the name of the president. It doesn't go in the name of the vice president. But when you have to think about what new do you want to do, you come up with new ideas. And I've come up with new ideas, which I want to do when we come into office. Everyone who is running for office, whether you are Kamala Harris or you are Bawumia, you still have to think about what you have to do when you get into office. And this is why I'm presenting my new ideas as to what to do. Samson talked about the scholarship students and all of that. And I think this is a very, very important issue. There's nothing more heart-wrenching than taking a student abroad and not being able to take care of them in those circumstances. And I think that I believe, and this is what we are saying, that one needs to, first of all, harmonize these databases so that you have full visibility and transparency. And also, we have undertaken in the manifesto to publish all the beneficiaries of all of these scholarships as they come, so that everybody knows who is getting the scholarships and so on. And again, I've been made very aware of this issue. It's not new, because students have and parents have gotten in touch with me about the awards and the scholarships and so on. So we're talking with the Ministry of Finance and the Scholarship Secretariat. I think they were able to make some payments to some of the UK students and so on. But we will follow up on that because it's very urgent. Cocoa Board is on the verge of collapse. I'm not aware of that, but we'll look at that. I cannot comment on that. It's not. I don't know where the data is coming from. Then the National Cathedral. National Cathedral, again, is a very, very important issue because, I mean, taxpayers' money has gone into it, and many people would like to see it completed. And I believe that one should have an engagement with the churches and all the stakeholders for us to see how best to get the funding to complete the project. But I think that we need to sit down and talk if the design has to be looked at again to make sure it can be completed. We have to put everything on the table, but I will be minded more by the churches and the church leaders and the discussions that we should have with them on the way forward. But I think it's an important issue. Thank you.
The sports fraternity, so the PFM.
Hello.
PFM Sports. Your Excellency, there was a question about the pharmacy staff and their arrears. If you can clear that one, then.
Yes, the pharmacists are my very good friends. But you're talking about 322 pharmaceutical doctors who are threatening to sue the Ministry of Health for their allowances. Again, I want to take this one up. This is the first time I'm hearing about this particular issue. I think it is Sheldon who raised it. I'm not aware of it, but I think it's an important issue that we should really resolve. So we'll talk to the Ministry of Health and Finance. Thank you very much.
We'll take Kankambodu's question from the sports, I believe. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. Before I go to my question, I'd like to draw your attention to the sad issue of the national amputee team. They apparently won the African Amputee Championship. They are owed per diems and bonuses and have not been paid. And they feel very neglected. And we all know that the strength of every nation is determined by how well they treat the vulnerable in society. In your manifesto, you talk about building 6 new stadiums in the 6 new regions. Currently, we have 5 major national stadiums, and only one, that's the Kumasi Sports Stadium, is fit enough to host a FIFA or CAF organized senior national team game. So I want to know what motivated that decision. And since we are even struggling to maintain 5, how well can we do if we have 11? Thank you.
Thank you, Kankambodu. We'll do. So, give the microphone to Ahini, please. It's right there. Please give the microphone to her. From the Ashanti region.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Ohinini Adazwa, Sumpa TV, Sumpa Radio, Kumasi.
Ja, Rastafari.
Selassie, I. In your manifesto, page 24C, you did mention something about flat rate. So let's say somebody import car engines and somebody second-hand clothing. Are they going to pay the same amount? I think we need better and further particulars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ahini. So, Dr. Ahini,
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Dachen Nanayawa Sante from Onuya FM. Your Excellency, respectfully, there is a saying that we should cry our own cry. You made a promise to teachers that you give them the opportunity of having cars. We know our minimum wage and where it stands, and the tripartite of T VO8 to 18.44 cities. The standard of living in Ghana is going high. Your Excellency, what will you do for 90% of people who are seated here today to carry your message on? They are journalists. Thank you.
So what's your question? For what will you do for the journalist? Is that the question? Okay. Otek. Mr. Buesiako from Otek, Ashanti. Please let's hear Mr. Buesiako from Ashanti.
Yes. Your Excellency, I want to congratulate my MP, Honorable Dr. Opoki Prempeh. Honorable, Your Excellency, you highlighted 14 key promises in your manifesto, but none of them were apportioned timelines on it. So how can you hold you accountable if not? Because it seems to become mere political rhetorics. Thank you.
Okay, Ibrahim. Ibrahim from GH1.
Thank you very much,
GH1.
Your Excellency. My name is Ibrahim Al-Hassan, GH1 TV, Star FM. Your Excellency, of course, forgive me for taking you back in 2016 when you were on the campaign trail. You had this declaration, and it's a very famous one. Parents are suffering, students are suffering, traders are suffering, pensioners are suffering, drivers are suffering, contractors are suffering, civil servants are suffering, farmers are suffering, fishermen are suffering, men are suffering, women are suffering, children are suffering, and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering. May I know the status of suffering of these individuals today?
I'll take Vanessa from Metro TV Accra, then I'll come to Adinkakam. So please get a microphone to Andy, and then Vanessa would speak. And then I'll come to you later. But Vanessa, Andy, then.
Thank you. My name is Vanessa Idotomboateng from Metro TV. Mr. Vice President, you will remember this quote: if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. And as at the time you were making this statement, a dollar to CD was 3 cedis and above, or about 3 cedis, 4 cedis, right? Thank you. 2024, a dollar to a cedi is 15 Ghana cedis, about 15 Ghana cedis. Okay, over 15 Ghana cedis. Thank you. How do I explain this to my mother, a cocoa seller, that in 2014 the fundamentals were weak? In 2024, where a dollar is now 15 cedis, the fundamentals are not weak, but the prices of goods and services are high today. Thank you.
Okay. Please.
No. Oh,
no. Yes, let Abna come and then you come. I want to hear more of the ladies at the point.
Mebacho ye frame Abna Pokua ahwini me wadum TV eni adum FM. Na masembisa yes ba ko kan ka beka didi kan. Mebacho pese ye share Dr. Bawumia ne hihye fofra wode ebeko etia galamsey ayadia so man no kon ache eno achi so Afram Plains 2016 MPP share call for bo esemo mu the bridge ebeto Afram nsu no so me pese me hu na ho hyehyɛ ya kodun Kokos Sports Stadium so me pese me hu no be atebia no ewo asatena medase.
Thank you. We'll take Nanaya, then His Excellency would give the responses. Please go ahead.
Good evening, His Excellency. I would like my question to be answered in Twi, but I'll ask it in English.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll ask it in Twi. I just want to know, say, in the first 100 days, if Ghanaians decide to vote for you, what would be the things you would want to tackle first?
Thank you. Let's take the responses and then we'll come back to the questions. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think the first question is looking at the national amputee team who are owed some allowances. So I'll talk to the sports minister here to get the facts on the issue, and if that is the case, we'll try to expedite their payment. So I'll when I leave here, I'm going to raise that issue. There is also the issue of 6 new stadia that, and only one of the existing 5 is being maintained. I think that is a very good question. One of the problems we have is the lack of maintenance of our pitches. I met with the Black Stars in Kumasi before their last game there, and when we met, the coach and the players were very clear that what they really needed, and this is why I've put it in our manifesto, was an international standard pitch. You know, that the pitches that we have are difficult to play on, and we needed international standard pitches. So in fact, in the manifesto, we need to do it. And I believe that we need professional management in terms of the maintenance of these pitches. And we need to train people and also bring in the people with the knowledge. And so we are going to do that, because we just build the pitches and very little maintenance of the pitches and the management of the pitches. So I think this is going to be one of the things that we're going to do. The building of the 5 other stadia, as I said, you know, we've made that commitment actually as far back as 2019. That with all these new regions that are coming on board, we will have to build stadia for them to encourage sports. And I believe that we've done quite a few already in terms of the multi-purpose sports stadia. We are doing 10. We've completed 6. 4 are almost done, and we are going to do another 5. So, I mean, the record is there that we've done 10. I think that we can do another 5 without much of a problem. Then the question came on the flat rate and whether second-hand clothing and spare parts will be paying the same rate. No, I think that the categories will be different. And with the flat rate, what we want to do is to bring a lot more predictability in import duty payment. At the moment, there isn't predictability, and there's a lot of discretion that seems to come in from time to time. And so what we are saying is that we're going to bring in a flat rate in cities. So if you are bringing in spare parts, and there's a 40-foot container of spare parts, you will know exactly what the duty is for the spare parts, say 20,000 cedis or 15,000 cedis or 30,000 cedis. It's a flat rate. So when the 40-foot container arrives of the spare parts, then you know you'll pay 40,000. If you are bringing in second-hand clothing, and that is attracting 20,000 cedis duty, you will know beforehand that it will come. It's not that it will arrive and then the price will change, because they will say the exchange rate has changed, so you pay more. But it will be a flat rate. So there's not going to be any confusion. chicken will attract a different rate from, spare parts will attract a different rate from rice, will attract a different rate from second-hand clothing. But you will know beforehand, before the goods before you import the goods, they will all be published. And so that we get away from these under invoicing and misclassification issues. These are really hampering revenue collection. Many importers invest time in misclassifying. They'll bring in chicken and they'll say it is fish or something. But the misclassification and so on, we will have to deal with that. Then the issue about cars for teachers and what we want to do for journalists and all of that. I really believe that one of the major problems, and we address this in the manifesto, that hampers workers and livelihoods in our country is the fact that we operate a cash-based system. Unlike in the advanced world where they operate a credit-based system. So in ab initio, life is much harder if you are a teacher in Ghana versus if you are a teacher in the US or the UK. Even if you are paid the same amount every month, the teacher in the UK will consume probably 5 to 6 times more goods than you in Ghana. Why? Because they are able to obtain credit and pay over time. And so, but we in Ghana here, we have to accumulate cash for whatever we want to buy. If you want to buy a car and the car is costing 100,000 or 150,000, you have to look for 150,000 to pay for the car. But if you were in the UK, you'll probably be paying 1,000 every month to pay for the car, or much less. But so your salary goes along a much longer way. So one of the things that we are bringing in as far as our manifesto is concerned is to move Ghana from a cash-based system to a credit-based system. It's very, very important, because the reason why the credit-based system works in the advanced countries, because they are able to compute credit scores for everybody. Credit scoring is key to a credit-based system, because it then assesses the risk of any borrower in terms of borrowing money for a fridge or a car or a TV or whatever. So the credit scoring becomes very key. 14 years ago, I wrote a book on the monetary policy and financial sector reform in Africa. This was in 2010. And in this book, I was making the case for why Ghana and Africa generally, we needed to move towards the credit-based systems. And the reason why is to really bring down the stress on living in our system. The reason why they are able to do what the credit system in the advanced countries is because the databases exist for the computation of the credit scores. So the what you need, a unique identity that exists, address, it exists, financial inclusion, a bank account where it exists. So when we came into office, I was very clear in my mind where we wanted Ghana to go. We needed to put in place the digital address system, the Ghana card, which we have done. We needed to put in place the address system. When we looked at the address system, I realized that it was going to be very difficult to go with what we had before, street addresses and so on. So I proposed that we go with digital address systems. I mean, at the time, only one country in the world, Mongolia, had a digital address, a wholesale digital address system. Only one country in the world. But I said, look, Ghana should move in that direction because we can leverage on GPS technology and have a digital address system. Now we have been able to get a digital address system, and we are the second country in the whole world to have a wholesale digital address system. Every part of Ghana we can have a digital address. Now then the third leg of this to allow us to get to credit scoring was to make sure most Ghanaians would have a bank account so that your financial transactions can be scored and monitored and so on. But when we came in, I realized that, of course, very small percentage of people had bank accounts, but a lot of people had mobile money accounts. And so I made the point that the key to get everybody financially included was to have that interoperability between the mobile money account and the bank account. And so we were able to do this mobile money interoperability. And so today, Ghana now has all the elements. All the elements are now in place for Ghana to move to a credit-based system. All the elements are now in place. And so we expect credit score. In fact, interestingly, when I made the point that individual credit scoring doesn't yet exist in Ghana, people were actually arguing, saying that that wasn't true, but that is absolutely true. So we are going to begin, proper wholesale individual credit scoring, which would then provide us a basis so that people can buy their cars. And someone was talking about the local producers and all of that. Once they know that we can offer this to teachers and they can pay overtime, or to journalists and they can pay overtime, they don't have to bring all the cash at once, then life will be much more bearable to all of us. So my expectation is that the credit scoring system, things are moving much faster than I expected. But it's now manifesto, we're moving to it, but I think that it's likely to begin before the end of this year because of where we are now. I expect to launch it reasonably soon because of where we are now. We've got everything in place but that will fundamentally change everything for Ghana. Currently in sub-Saharan Africa, it's only one country that has a credit scoring system and a credit base. That is South Africa. Ghana will be, before the end of this year, the second country in sub-Saharan Africa with a credit-based system. But it will bring down the pressure on all of our workers once you enter into that. Then there was a question that went on the lack of timelines for the manifesto in terms of promises and so on. I think that when you are going for an election, you are going for an election for a 4-year term initially, isn't it? Yeah, so your promises have to be in line with that term of office, right? That this is what I want you to elect me to do these things, right? But I think that we have a pretty good record in terms of honoring our promises. We've done some work to look at our 2016 manifesto, what proportion of those promises we've honored, and it has been 83% of the 2016 manifesto has been honored, 83%. And then when you look at the 2020 manifesto, 2020, even in the midst of all these crises, we are fulfilling, or we've fulfilled 80% of our 2020 manifesto. My opponent in his 2012 manifesto, when he became president, he only fulfilled 28%. We've done the numbers. 28% of his 2012 manifesto. 280 promises. He didn't fulfill 203 of the 280 promises. He only fulfilled 28%. of his promises. So I think that we have a better record as far as fulfilling promises. And when I put something down, I usually have a good idea how I'm going to get it done. And so that is I think something that we are going to look at. I think that the issue has come about suffering. And I remember very well, my statements. Teachers are suffering, and doctors are suffering, and journalists are suffering, and everybody is suffering. In 2016, which was the case actually, in that regard. But I think that we've moved on significantly since 2016, and we can point to a few things that we have, because at the end of the day, you reduce broadly by creating, give people something to do, or you bring in some interventions to ameliorate the problems, the hardships that are there. So you need to look at what we have. At least 1.1 million jobs. Per capita income in terms has gone up almost more than 3. In dollar terms, per capita income from 2016 has gone up from 1,978 to 2,436. So GDP has gone up, per capita income has gone up. As I said, all public sector workers employed. We didn't lay off anyone during the COVID, and have done that. So much from doom. Everybody was suffering from doom. But we have kept the lights on for 8 years. All their teacher training allowances. Nursing trainees were suffering. We've restored their allowances. People who were in the hydroxyurea, which was really needed and wasn't covered by today it is covered by the NHI. Kidney dialysis is covered, as well as childhood cancer was also covered. You also see that for the people, the issue of rental, the National Rental Assistance Scheme has come in to really that. For areas, remote areas, medical drones to deliver medicines, blood across 2,694 health facilities. And even recently, when there was flooding because of rain in the Afram Plains, we had to drones to take examination papers over there. Parents have now benefited free teachers for 8 years, have had the benefit, and therefore today, 4 million children are benefiting from school feeding, more than double. We have also absorbed the examination fees for all students for BEC and WACC examinations. And then, as I said before, doubled the number of student loan recipients from 30,000 to 58,000. We've introduced the no guarantor student loans. A lot of students who were suffering, looking for guarantors, now just need their Ghana card and they will get it. So we've done quite a bit in We brought in one constituency, one ambulance, and we procured the ambulances for many of our constituencies or many of our districts. And also, if you look at the small and medium enterprises who had major problems in accessing funding, we've provided funding over the last 8 years to 444,000 SMEs, 1.4 billion Ghana cedis, which has been quite significant by any account and very historic in that regard. So I think that, yes, the suffering is there, but we've done a lot of social interventions to ameliorate that suffering. It's not gone, but at least we can point to things that have gone in to reduce the suffering of our people. I mean, even renewing national health insurance was a problem. Just to renew it, many people had to go and sleep. I know in my constituency, people had to go to the office and sometimes sleep for 3 days before they could renew national health insurance. Today you sit in your home and buy electricity credit. You don't need to take trotro or taxi and go somewhere else. So we've done quite a bit to reduce the suffering of people. Of course, it is not complete. We still have more to continue. When Vanessa was asking, weak, the exchange rate will expose you, which is a truth. It was true then, and it's still true today. That the weaken, you will see impact on the exchange rate, fundamental. And when we talk about many of these fundamentals, you're talking about GDP rate, you're talking about the fiscal balance, you're talking about the reserves, level of the reserves that you have, inflation, and so on. When we came into office,